Welcome back, everybody. It's Dominic from the Primetime Treasure eBay store, where I specialize in the sale of comic books, toys, books, pop culture items, clothes, and essentially all things vintage and collectible. Of all the things that I sell, comic books have and will always be my favorite item. I've enjoyed them ever since I was a young child, and I've thoroughly enjoyed them up until adulthood. Collecting, reselling, there's just something about them. The art, the smell. If you collect them, you know what I'm talking about. The stories, the characters, they're just so much fun to deal with. And that's why I figured that I would do a video today about the top 10 most expensive non-certified comic books that sold on eBay in the past 2 months. I thought this video would be good and interesting for comic book collectors, but also for people who don't know much about comic books and they sell on eBay, they're resellers, and they are trying to develop some knowledge and some working familiarity with the topic. And so I thought that this would be something of interest to them as well, because I am trying to encourage people to branch out and not just stay in their box of familiar items that they sell, and to try and expand into new areas. I did that over the past year by getting into selling vintage clothing and other types of collectible clothing, and never thought that I would ever do that before, but I've taken that on, and it's been an important part of my reselling business on eBay. So with that being said, let me go over one of the terms I'm going to use here for anyone who's new into the topic of comic books and collecting and selling, and that has to do with the term non-certified. So by non-certified, what I mean is that the books that I'm going to go over in this video are ones that were not sent out for any type of certification or grading through a professional organization or company that does such things. When you have a book that you think might be of particular value, if you send it out to a grading service, the most popular ones would be CGC, CBCS, PGX, and they grade your book, and if it comes back at a high grade, generally that is going to result in significantly higher resale value for you. And even if it's a book that comes back at a low grade, but it happens to be one that's very rare and unusual and particularly hard to find, particularly old, that could still command significant value because it's encapsulated in a plastic casing, and that helps to protect it. So but these books that I'm going to go over again are non-certified. If people like this video, I might go ahead and do one that covers the certified books. But let's go over and start with number 10. We're going to work our way backwards. And number 10 is Walking Dead #1 from 2003. Now, the sale price for that was around $1,400. It was sold through a buy it now best offer. Now the person was asking, the seller was asking about $1,900 for this, but the way eBay works with its best offers is that when you look through the completed sold, you can't tell exactly how much that it's sold for, but there's some ways that you could figure it out and deduce what the actual sale price was, and I was able to figure out this one sold for about $1,400. Interestingly, the condition was unspecified in the listing, and that is unusual because a collector who's going to pay this type of money definitely wants to know what the condition is. You could make some assumptions based on the actual pictures that are put up, but I would imagine that whoever purchased this contacted the seller back channel and asked for some specifics in writing about the condition. And someone who's going to pay this type of money for a modern book like this is going to want it to be in near mint condition. The reason why this book is popular is several reasons and why this commanded this much money. First of all, it's the Walking Dead is extremely popular in terms of a TV show and a comic book series. If you go to my first haul video that no, I'm sorry, not first haul video, but my other top 10 video that I have up, where I go over the top 10 most expensive items sold in the Primetime Treasure eBay store in 2017. You'll see some Walking Dead collections that are featured. They really do command a lot of money, and this is just another example of this, because this actually is going to turn out to be the only modern book that cracks the top 10. Another reason why this book is popular, it's not only because it's Walking Dead. First issues command a lot of money because it's the beginning. So that's something that someone new into comic book collecting, would want to know. You could probably figure that out. But the other thing that is more of a kind of an insider's tip is you are looking for, let me go back here, you are looking for first printings. First printings are important because people want the original. They want the first time that it came out. If it's a second printing or a third printing, not going to be as valuable. And a little tip for people to figure out the printings. Now, you could open up the cover and you could look on the bottom of the page, and where it talks about all the information about where it was published and when it was published, it will usually provide information about what printing it is, but it won't always. And so another way to quickly figure it out without having to open the book at all is to go take a look at the UPC code. And you could see that over here. There's some numbers over in this area, and these are the numbers you want to focus on because these tell you some important information about the book. So this first one here, this number 1, this tells you what issue it is. So it's issue number 1. As you could see over there, that's issue number 1. This tells you what cover it is. So sometimes they make different covers for comic books that are called variant covers. So it's the same story, but it'll have a different cover on it, usually produced by a different artist. And depending on what artist produced it, it could be worth significantly more money than the regular cover that was put out for the book. But this last number here, this number tells you the printing of the book. So if you have straight ones going across, you know first issue, first cover, and first printing. So that's an easy way to figure it out. Little cheat sheet, you might want to enter that into that type of information. So moving on, and now this one is going to be a little bit of a teaching exercise as well, because this is a little bit of an unusual situation. This is number 9. This is Walt Disney's Mickey Mouse, number 96. Now, when I saw this, it jumped out as odd to me because in and of itself, the old Mickey Mouse books that were produced by Gold Key, old Disney books, old cartoon books from the 1960s, they are just not worth much money in general. I could go pick up this book right now easily on eBay for $5-10. The reason why this one wound up selling for around $1,400 to a best offer, again, person was asking around $1,900, $1,950, and the cover was stained and still sold for $1,400, is because there's a supposed signature on it by Walt Disney. It's a little bit glary here, but you could see it more clearly here. Now, what's interesting about this is that, when I look at it, I say to myself, well, how do we know that this is actually a real signature by Walt Disney? Now, the person who is selling it claimed that it was authentic and said that they had a certificate, or a letter, I should say, of authenticity. And you could see here's the letter of authenticity. It says, "To whom it may concern, on behalf of the Joe DiMaggio Estate, LLC, it is our professional opinion that the signature listed is/are genuine. Walt Disney autograph Mickey Mouse Gold Key comic book issue August 1964. There's a little picture of the book in it. It says, "We appreciate your business," has a signature, has a phone number, has a website. But I think there's some red flags here. One of the things is that if you look closely at this picture here and this the lettering here, you see that the ink is smudged. And that is really, really strange. You also see that here in the signature, you see smudging of the ink. And the quality of this makes it look like this was just something that was just printed off of a home DeskJet printer, which is unusual for a letter of authenticity. The other thing, beyond the running ink and making it look like it was made on a computer, there's no date anywhere on the letter, and there's no certification number on the letter. Now, I'm not saying that it's not real, like 100%, but I'm just saying I would have personally red flags about this if I was a buyer. And I would also just look into who's actually selling this item, what is their reputation. Do your homework if you're going to spend this kind of money, because I did look at the feedback of the seller, and one of the things that I saw was this. It says autograph did not pass PSA authentication, out $40, avoid. And the seller writes back, well, I didn't realize that the autograph was not authentic, and refunded instantly. PSA is one of the two major organizations that helps to certify the authenticity of autographs for sports. The other one would be JSA. So JSA and PSA are the companies you want to go to. Now, for Walt Disney, that's something you'd really have to go to a specialist for. If you search online, there actually is an individual who does specialize in authenticating Walt Disney's signature, but that's not this particular company here. And just to give you a sense of what an actual professional looking letter of authenticity should look like, this is one that you see on my top 10 video. This is actually the #1 item that I sold in the Primetime Treasure eBay store for $700 in 2017. Was a funny, Joe DiMaggio's name got mentioned because this is actually a Joe DiMaggio signed ball. And if you look closely at this picture here, you could just see the difference of how much more professional that it looks. There's a certification number down below. There's a date underneath the ball. There's the submission. There's a submission number on it. There's no running ink anywhere. There's an actual stamping down below by a notary. It just really, really looks so much more professional than this one over here. So again, just be skeptical if you're going to fork over that much money for a signature, whether it's on a comic book or anything else. And then also look up the reputation of the company that is doing the authentication. And if you do your homework on the company that did the authenticating here, you'll find some interesting things on the internet about it. I'm not going to belabor the point more because I think you get the idea, and I'm just going to move on to the next topic, but I thought you'd find that interesting, and that's why that book wound up selling for that much money. Okay, so number 8, we've got Silver Streak Comics, number 14. This is from 1941, and that's one of the themes you're going to see running through the rest of these books, is that the vast majority of them are from the 1940s. So this is what's called the golden age of comics. You're going to see that their cover prices are going to be 10 cents. And most of these now, you're going to see the method of sale is going to be an auction, and that's not a bad idea for these old, rare 1940s comics. You get, a few people going at it who really want the book, who really drive the price up. So again, this one sold for $1,400 after 29 bids, and even with it being in, having some condition issues, a couple of old pieces of tape on the interior of the cover bottom. Condition issues are really not that major of a deal for comic books that are this old. Collectors expect them to have condition issues. Books from the 1940s were way before anyone was collecting comic books, and trying to preserve them in any meaningful way. So a lot of them have date stamps, they have people's names on them, and those really don't detract a lot from the value of the book, again, because they're expected, and the books are generally so rare that they still command a lot of money when they get put on the market. Now, one of the things you want to look for these old books, because you might say Silver Streak Comics. Well, what's that? I never heard of that before. Why would that be valuable? Some of the things you want to look for go beyond the character. So, here what you see is iconic imagery of World War II kind of battle. You've got the Nazi insignia, here on this enemy character, and you've got the American-looking heroes fighting and beating up the Nazi characters who are falling down, and they all look vicious and scary. See, they're called the Nazi Skullmen, and you've got the American flag going right through the word streak. These kind of things will always drive the price up. Any kind of World War II items, anything that says war on it, anything with Nazi insignia, particularly showing the Nazis being defeated and being taken down. There's a famous comic book cover of Captain America punching Hitler in the face. I mean, these things are extremely popular. The other thing that you're going to see here is that there's an early Daredevil character right up top here. Now, this is not the Daredevil character that we all know, who's become popular and has movies after him and that type of stuff. But he does actually have some similarities. You could see here that he has some red in his outfit, and he seems to be carrying some type of cane-like object. It says staring the Daredevil. So that's another reason why this comic book would command that type of money, a combination of a few things. You got the Daredevil up there, and you've got the other aspects that I mentioned earlier. So those are kind of some things to look for. All right. Moving on to number 7. Number 7, of course, Superman's going to pop in here somewhere, right? This is Superman number 24. This one went for between $1,500 and $1,600. It was through a Buy It Now best offer, and best offer was accepted, again, for somewhere between $1,500 and $1,600 in fine to fine plus condition. What that basically means is there's some cover imperfections on it. There's going to be some wrinkles, some dimpling, that type of stuff. It's not a perfect book. There's some flaws, but it's still a desirable, appealing copy, as you could see here through the picture. There's nothing in this particular issue that makes it special, but it's special just because it's Superman. It's an early book, and there he is standing in all his glory, holding a big giant American flag. It's just a beautiful display piece, and would obviously be enjoyable to read, and that's going to command high dollar value every single time it gets put on the market. So that's another thing you're looking for, is old books from the 40s, with iconic characters, with patriotic symbolism on it. Always going to command good money when you have that. All right, number 6. This is one of the few books that's not in the 1940s that sold for very high money over the in our top 10 range over the past 60 days on eBay, and that's the Avengers number 1. Everyone knows of the Avengers these days because of the movies that have come out. This one here sold for over $1,700 to auction. A whopping 51 bids came in. It's a mid-grade comic book. Again, just meaning that it has some, relatively minor imperfections to it. Still a very desirable copy. And, obviously, the reason why this one command a lot of money is it's the first issue of the Avengers. And not only that, it's also the first appearance of the Avengers. So, you've got Ant-Man here, you've got Thor, you've got the Hulk, you've got Iron Man. This is just, a great cover as well. You could see looks like Loki there in the background, who's one of Thor's enemies, staring him down, and Thor coming at him with the hammer. It's just a great cover, So nice bright colors, great book, and Avengers #1 always going to command a good price on the market, especially if it's in good condition. Moving on to the next one. This is Young Allies #4. Now, this is a good example, again, of what I was talking about earlier with the World War II symbology on the cover. You see that here. We've got a couple of examples of Nazi symbolism with the swastikas here. And, you could see you've got these scary skull-like figures. You've got these bright colors. You've got the Human Torch for younger people who know the Human Torch, what he looks like these days. This is actually what it looked like back then when Timely Comics, which was what Marvel Comics was called before it was known as Marvel Comics. That's what he looked like. You could see all sorts of diabolical things seem to be happening in this area where this Nazi skull character is, that wartime symbolism, again, very, very popular, and it's just kind of just a strange looking cover with a lot of things going on. And 1940s, this one went for about $1,900 through auction, 53 bids, just some minor defects in the book and on the cover. And you can see here there's some name stamps on the cover. Again, this is what I told you earlier. Not going to affect the price. This is what people did back in the old days to just claim their book, and it would just be something to indicate that it was theirs. Again, not going to take away that much from the value. So moving on, #4. Here's Superman again. This is number 11. This is from 1941. This one cracks over $2,000. So $2,024 plus $15 shipping. And the style here is auction, 12 bids. Book has a few relatively minor issues, some yellowing of the pages, some front cover scuffs, some dirtiness on the cover. It doesn't really matter, because essentially, again, this is an early issue of an iconic comic book character that everybody knows. And although he doesn't have the American flag there, he's still demonstrating his strength by breaking through the chains. And, that is something that's symbolic of freedom and breaking oppression. And, there's, even though he's not holding the flag, there's something quite patriotic about that. And so, and it's really cool how you see just a little, links of the chain just kind of flying off there. Just a great, great display piece again. Great story to read, obviously, and just going to be something that's going to command a lot of money when you've got Superman with that kind of cover. So, all right, moving on to #3. This is called More Fun Comics, #101. Now, this is a good teaching lesson in that not every comic that's worth a lot of money is going to be one in which there's a famous superhero on the cover, or there's World War II symbolism on it, or there's some kind of Nazi symbolism through wartime on it. That's not always going to be what commands high dollar values. In fact, this book wound up costing more money than all those other ones that I showed previously. This one sold for almost $2,200, $2,179 plus $595 shipping. Had a whopping 57 bids. Conditions very good, complete, clean. The reason why this one's popular is because inside of it is the first appearance and origin of Superboy. This is actually what is inside the book, and this is a story that tells or tries to tell the origin of Superman and what he was like when he was little, that type of stuff. And it's a pretty cool drawing of him there. Great artwork, and that's why this book is popular. People love to collect origin stories, and origin stories are not always in the first issue, or the first appearance of certain characters are not always in the first issue of the book named after them. So, for example, modern day Deadpool is extremely popular character. I talked about that in my top 10 Primetime Treasure eBay sales video for 2017, where Deadpool books featured prominently in that. And the first appearance of him is actually in a comic book called New Mutants '98 from the 90s. And so if you think Deadpool #1 is the first appearance of Deadpool, that's not actually correct. So that's something to know about comic books if you're new and just getting into it. Is you got to research and find out where are first appearances, where are origin stories. And that's another thing that could be different. The first appearance of a comic book character might be in one particular book, but then it might be another story where they tell the origin of the actual character in terms of how he came to be that particular character. So moving on to the next one, we've got Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman #7 from 1943 went for $2,187 plus $15 shipping. Auction format, 30 bids. Has some issues to it. Spine roll, corner chips, loose cover at the bottom, pages browning, but it doesn't matter. It's Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is so popular. I really don't even care what you have that has Wonder Woman on it, if it's a comic book or not. There are major, huge collectors for Wonder Woman out there who pay just a real high premium for items with her on it. So, but this one is, you could see why this one commanded a lot of money, especially these days where our politics have changed and our society has changed, in that we actually just had a woman who was running for president. And, this one back then in the 1940s, I don't think there were many people back then that actually, thought that you would have a woman for president. And so this was, sometimes, comic books help to set the tone and put ideas in people's minds for things that might not come to fruition for another 60, 70 years. But, that's why this one's popular, is because of that. So moving on, okay, a little drum roll for the #1 non-certified comic book that's sold on eBay over the past 60 days, and that is Captain America #3. Now this one just blows away the other issues because this one sold for $4,500, went up at auction, and unlike the other ones where you see 50, 40, 30 bids, this one just had one bid. Then it only takes one buyer, everybody. And the interesting thing about this one is that it really did have some more condition issues than any of the other ones. But it's missing the center leaf. The cover and the current center page was detached at the staples. But there's an important reason why this book sold for this much money. And it's not what you might think. It's not because it's from the 1940s and it's Captain America. It's not because Captain America's famous enemy, the Red Skull, is on the cover looking like he's, getting ready to torture somebody. That's not the reason. The reason is this is the first book that Stan Lee did work for Marvel Comics. Stan Lee, if you don't know and you're totally new to comic books, but Stan Lee's an important writer, editor, publisher, and many other roles for Marvel Comics. And he basically is the reason why comic books are the craze that it is today. Created so many important Marvel characters, and he actually wrote a story, a Captain America story, which you could see right down here inside the book. Captain America foils the traitor's revenge, and you can see down here it says by Stan Lee. And this is the first little story that he wrote. They gave him a little assignment when he was a teenager, and he just took it from there, and they really loved his enthusiasm, and they gave him some good artwork to accompany it. And, he just took off from there, and, comics were never, ever the same. And it's because of that. There are so many different factors that could play a role into why a comic book is popular. I went over a lot of them today. There's many more, but I thought you'd find all this kind of history a little bit interesting. Now, just so you know, in case you're wondering, because you've probably heard there are comic books that sell for tens of thousands of dollars. hundreds of thousands of dollars, even $1 million. There are comics that will get up that high. Those types of books generally do not get put on eBay for sale. Where those comic books go for sale is generally they'll go to a high price auction house, or they will go to a popular website which is known as Comic Link. So if you go there, I will put the link to that down below in the description section. So check out Comic Link. You won't believe some of the prices that you see some of the comic books have sold for. It's absolutely astronomical. So if you hit on the right book and it's early enough or in a good enough condition, I mean, you really can make out well. But they are challenging to find books that old, but you never know. They pop up every day in all sorts of unexpected situations. Storage lockers, estate sales, you never know. Even garage sales, people have found some of these things. So I really hope that you liked this video and you found it interesting. If you have any comments, anything you'd like to add, please drop it down below. Any additional information you want to mention, that would really be appreciated. Again, I'm trying to do some teaching here, but I'd love to learn some things from all of you as well. And I'd especially love a big thumbs up. Hit that like button. Very important. Please subscribe to this channel if you like it. If there's another type of video you would like to see, I'll be happy to put it together. Just let me know. Please stop by, drop by the Primetime Treasure eBay store. The link is down below in the description section. If you do like to collect comic books, you'll see that I have a lot available for sale. And if there's something you're looking for that you don't see, let me know. I might have it and easily just go put it up for you. And with that, I hope everyone has a nice rest of the week, and come back again. Check out the new and latest video, which I'm trying to put them up as many as I can during the week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.